This is the Blaze Radio on demand.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-686-3910. That's 1-800-686-3910. Again, 1-800-686-3910. Call now.
Now, spreading freedom across the nation. This is 3, 2, 1.
The Buck Sexton Show.
Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show. It's Lawrence Jones in for Buck today. We got a lot of news for you today. We want to get your calls at 888-900-3393, 888-900-3393. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Always a big thanks to Buck for having me fill in for him. We got some big news for you today on the future and what I'm going to be doing here at the Blaze. So you'll want to stay here to maybe the second hour. Well, I'll be able to announce to you some of the big news and what we plan on doing moving forward. Let's get into Colin Kaepernick. Many of you may know the story of Colin and what he's been doing, sitting down doing the national anthem. And I believe there is two parts to this story that we have to talk about together in order for us to have some sanity in this conversation. First of all, I want to be absolutely clear as a conservatarian, libertarian. I respect everybody's right to be able to sit down. People died for the right for people to sit down. I'm sorry, it's protected speech. But I also stand up for those that want to criticize Colin Kaepernick for his stance today. But my problem with Colin is when he takes it a step further by wearing these socks with pigs with cop uniforms on. That's when we start to get in muddy territory. The interesting thing about Colin is that all of a sudden, and again, I support freedom, but all of a sudden he wants to raise these issues when he's on the spiraling down of his career, when he's at a point where people are getting ready to cut him from the team, when his athletic ability isn't really that great. Now he wants to take a stand. Why now is my question. Why now? I often have the conversation on this network, or as well as when I go on Fox or CNN, talking about the relationship between the black community and the police. And it's one that many people don't like to talk about, especially in conservative media, because it tends to make people uncomfortable. I'm one that served in law enforcement, that got a degree in criminal justice. And so I understand the law enforcement side. Grew up wanting to be a cop. But on the other hand, I understand the community sides, because I would be lying to you if I didn't admit that I sweat bullets when I'm pulled over. Is that the majority of the cops that are causing me to do that? Nope. It's probably about 2% of them that has given officers a bad name, that it's dishonored the profession. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you stories like the one that Tim Scott gave on the House floor about him being pulled over in the Capitol 12 times. He's a Republican. He's one that mostly agrees with us on every single issue, that votes the way that we want him to vote. But it's a reality that he faced. But the question I have for Colin is, how do you put all America and all of cops in one category? Because there are some of us that are trying to improve America. There are some of us that are trying to improve the criminal justice system. And you have the audacity to essentially call us all pigs. What are you doing to help our community? You talk about oppression. You talk about us not being able to get jobs. What have you done in the community? Have you tried to invest in small businesses in the black community? You talk about oppression. I'm sorry. I don't feel like I'm being oppressed. Are there people that try to shut me down? Yes, they can try, but they won't be successful. I'm a competitor, and I would expect you, being an athlete, to understand that, what a competitor is. But apparently, since your career is going down the drain, all of a sudden you have to find an excuse on why you can't be successful in the greatest country on this earth. Colin, I guess you thought you had an ally based on my opening. There is no doubt that we have problems in America, but the good outweighs the bad. Colin wants to talk about white privilege. And I often tell people how I feel about white privilege. You have the privilege to kiss my tail, because no man of any color will stop me and what God has for me on this earth. Many people in the mainstream media, especially progressives, want to paint people of color as victims. I am not your victim. My ancestors, my mom and dad, worked way too hard for me to be a victim. My mom had me at 16. We grew up in poverty, and I'm still at the age of 23 on national TV, on national radio. And it wasn't because anybody gave me a handout. I am not your victim. Many people want to make excuses for being successful. Many people want to paint America as if it's the place to oppress people. When there is many people, there is blood on this soil of Americans of all colors that fought the oppressed system. If there's any oppression, I think it's the cronies in Washington of both political parties that band together to keep us down. That's the real oppression. That every single day, members of both parties use laws and regulations to benefit themselves, their pocketbook. The oppression that one candidate that's running for president would commit such heinous acts, such as using her private email with intelligence, putting many of us at risk because there is national intelligence in that email and not seeing a day in jail when there's average day people that's done way less, and they're not behind bars. So you tell me where the oppression is coming from. We have a liberal media that wants to make black people to be victims, that there is no way that we can succeed in America because of white privilege. I'm sorry. You miss me with that. No one defeats me. And I know many people from the same town I grew up, in Dallas, Texas, that believe the same way, that we won't be stopped, no matter who tries to stop us. Lawrence, you don't understand. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. No, I wasn't. I grew up in poverty. I understand what happens in the community. And you're damn straight that I moved out as soon as I could because my parents taught me to aspire for more. And now my mission is to go back to the community and to help other brothers and sisters get out. Because for some reason, progressives want to keep liberal policies that make us dependent on the government. And then have the audacity to say we are being oppressed while you guys every single day create policies. Look at LBJ. He made these policies so we would be dependent on the government. And we hear nothing about it. Nothing about it. But you guys want to criticize Donald Trump's speech when he says that we're living in poverty, that people are being shot up? I'm not even a Trump supporter, and I agree with him because it's the truth. We got more when we come back. Keep it here. The Buck Sexton Show.
You're listening to The Buck Sexton Show on the Blaze Radio Network.
Hey team, it's Buck. Have you tried a Casper mattress yet? They are incredible. They're obsessively engineered and they come at a shockingly fair price for a mattress that brings together technology and comfort to also be a great value is just too much for any of you to pass up. It combines springy latex and supportive memory foams to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink and the perfect bounce. Time magazine named it one of the best inventions of 2015. It is an award-winning mattress that absolutely will not disappoint. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Free shipping and returns to the U.S. and Canada. And for listeners of this show, you can get a special $50 toward any mattress by going to Casper.com/Buck, Casper.com/Buck, and using Buck as the code. Terms and conditions apply.
Buck Sexton.
Welcome back to the Buck Sexton Show. Lawrence Jones in for Buck. I still want to get to your calls today. 888-900-3393. 888-900-3393. Let me tell you something. Liberals, conservatives, libertarians, socialists, if you have a concern with what I just said in my opening, please call in. Please do me a favor and call in so I can highlight your hypocrisy. please call into this program, because many of you are part of the problem. Show up to the community. Help out. You tell me something that I said that was wrong about it. So many people want to paint us as the victims. I am not a victim. I wake up every morning, to a job that I love, that I feel like I was put on this earth to do. And I get up, I put my shirt on just like everyone else. I put my shoes on just like everyone else. And I say, how can I help improve my community? How can I help? How can I make America a better place? Many of you complain. Many of you would prefer for one another, for us to hate one another. Many of you are part of the problem. Like the Dems. There's a memo that was leaked of the DNC that shows Dem officials were panicking about how to handle Black Lives Matter. Well, would you look at that? They were saying words to use and what words not to use. In this memo, they asked for us not to discuss black on black crime. Don't discuss black on black crime because it's going to offend Black Lives Matter. I'm sitting here reading the memo right now. You know, this is what I talk about, the shady practices of the left. And I'm not saying the right doesn't do it because, you know, they both do it. Sometimes it's this good cop versus bad cop. But this shadiness of the DNC through all these back channels appearing like they support Black Lives Matter. And then the real issues that are facing the black community, they don't want to talk about that. Now, I started this show talking about the issues that we face as it relates to the community and the criminal justice system and how we need to repair that through community policing and other models. How we got to restore trust and all that. I talked about that. In the DNC, in their little memo, though, they don't want to talk about what's happening in our communities. They don't want to talk about the violence. That lets you know that they have an agenda. You know, I've been having this theory for a while. And I'm real cautious of talking about it. So the Dems, they make sure, you know, they can talk about all this race stuff, but when we start talking about it, it becomes offensive. The Dems are so quick to support policies like abortions, especially in the black community. That's why our population is decreasing as it relates to the black community because they target the neighborhoods. Over 80% of the Planned Parenthood association facilities are in black or Hispanic neighborhoods, mostly black. They don't want to discuss black on black crime and what's happening in our community. They don't want to talk about that epidemic. They don't want to talk about helping out the community. Many of those cities are progressive cities. I don't know. It seems like they're trying to eliminate us. I mean, seriously, if it's not for the policies that keep us in poverty, if it's not for the abortions, if it's not for the killing that is going on in our communities, it seems like they're trying to eliminate us, honestly. Lawrence, don't say that on radio. You can't say that. You can't say that. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But you know what? As much as I don't like Donald Trump, as much as I don't like him, he's bringing up issues in our community. He's been the first Republican in a while to bring up some of the issues that are facing our community. When he's talking about people being gunned down. Oh, we don't like the way he delivered that speech. Is it happening? Because when I go back home to my barbershop, that's what we talk about. The jobs. We talk about that. We talk about Hillary Clinton and what she's done to the community. You know, and the most interesting thing about it all is that while we're talking about Donald Trump and the way he delivered his message, nobody is disputing the facts of what he's saying. It's happening in my community. But we want this to be a race thing. We want him to be painted as a racist. I think those policies are racist. Call in the show. Let me know. If you dispute what I'm saying, call in the show. Let's debate it. Let's have a spirited debate. You tell me that the policies that they're implementing are directly affecting my community. I challenge you to call in. Because you know I'm right. You know for a fact that I'm right. Every day, somebody is gunned down in Chicago. Every day, somebody is put it back on food stamps. Every day, somebody loses their jobs to policies that keep businesses out of our community. We got more when we come back, right here on the Buck Sexton Show, the Blaze Radio Network. Keep it here.
The Buck Sexton Show on the Blaze Radio Network.
This is the Buck
Sexton
Show.
Welcome back to the program. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. Let's get a caller in before our next guest. Rich, welcome to the program.
Hey, Lawrence, can you hear me?
I can, brother. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I appreciate the passion in your opening statement. It's something that sounded very sincere that you don't hear a lot of these days. You always hear the progressive liberals talking about the race issue, but they never talk about what the exact solution to it is, or what will solve it, or what will end it, or when that will happen. And that's because there's too many in the media, the political class, and elsewhere that benefit from perpetuating the myth that there's this systemic racism in law enforcement, basically everywhere in society. So, for liberals, their mindset about solving the alleged racial problem is akin to solving the Israel-Palestinian problem or getting the pro-life and pro-choice people to agree on anything. It's just not going to happen.
Rich, my only concern with them is, what have you done for my community? Okay, I'll give you. Let's do this right quick. I'll give you this. Let's say racism, because I do believe racism still exists. It's not as prevalent, but it exists. But can it stop me? Okay, that's my only concern, is that liberals just throw it out there. But can it stop me? I'm determined to not let hate or racism or any other factor stop me from living my American dream. It will not stop me.
Well, Lawrence, you kind of hit on it, a very significant point. There are so many different kinds of discrimination that take place out there. It's unbelievable. Yep. Okay, there's so many, but when it rises to a certain level, okay, yeah, you got to address it. Well, it has gone the other way with racism. I think that fat people are discriminated against more than black people these days. Or, pick a stereotype that some people are hey, I don't want to have anything to do with him or her or something to that effect. So, now the question comes down to, and we see this daily, is where are we on the sensitivity scale? We've gotten to the point where, everybody's offended.
Yeah, everybody's offended, and you know what? I'm here to offend. Thank you so much for the call, Rich. My next guest is Sonnie Johnson. She's a friend of mine. She's my big sister in the movement, and I often have her come on the program to talk about issues that are facing my community. Sonnie, welcome to the program.
What's up, little brother? How are you?
Sonnie, before you joined, I was just having this fiery conversation with the viewers because, we talk about white supremacy. We talk about, people putting policies in to stop us. But I've come to the conclusion that I won't be stopped, sis. And so just share with our viewers how you feel about white privilege and stuff facing our community.
Oh, well, welcome to the club of not being stopped. It's nice to have you over here. No, this is like for the last 8 years that I have been doing this, I have been basically focused on conservatives and Republicans and getting them to understand that courting the black community has nothing to do with changing your principles as much as it has to do with changing your tactics. All right, and most of that just comes down to a basic understanding. When they say white privilege exists, when they say that white supremacy exists, when they say that white power exists, they're not lying. They have just messed up the name. The name of it is progressivism. So if you need help getting into to colleges because college admissions aren't fair, they're run by progressives. If you're saying that Hollywood isn't fair, Oscar's so white, they're run by progressives. If you're saying that they only play derogatory music on our radio stations because they want to keep us in yes, and they are also run by progressives. The abortion clinics are run by progressives. So everything that you are complaining about, you want to talk about the drug laws, the gun laws, all of these things that keep black people going in and out of prison, probation and parole, they are all progressive agendas. So the only problem is you have said that there is a problem within our system. You have just misnamed it. Now, if you want to go after the progressive ideology that puts all of these traps on the black community, then I am with you. If you think that that is based on a color, then you're not paying attention to the leadership in those communities because it's democratic leadership. They all look black just like you, yet they are pushing a progressive ideology, and that is the ideology that destroys.
Did she even listen to my monologue? Y'all, I mean, now, let me tell you something. For the listeners that are listening, I did not talk to her before this. She hasn't listened in. What did I just say on air? This same stuff. But yet, people get mad. And you know what? You're talking to somebody that's not even a fan of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump identified the problem. What's the problem with Donald Trump?
And this is it. And I am supporting Donald Trump, but I'm not one of the sycophants. I am. For 8 years, I have been doing this. For 8 years, I have been saying, if you take an economic message into the black community, they will listen. I have said that you don't have to focus on abortion and gay marriage, all of these social issues. Just like for white people, it's the economy stupid. It's the same thing for black people. So, for 8 years, I've been having this conversation where I've also been warning that the Fergusons and the Baltimores and the Milwaukees were going to happen because you are not addressing the basic foundation of what is wrong in the black community. Progressivism sucks out capitalism. Without capitalism, you have no fluidity of money. Without fluidity of money, you cannot grow and build wealth. That is what is missing in the black community. So for 8 years, I've been doing that. But at the same time, I've been standing against Obamacare. At the same time, I've been shouting, I'll audit the IRS. At the same time, I've been defending Second Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights. I have been doing this consistently, standing up for conservative principles. What I am saying now is that the fight for the black community is actually happening. It's not imaginary. It's not what can we do. It's not how do we. No, the fight is actually happening. Right now, if you are called or if you bring up what is happening in the black community and you are called a racist, you are allowed to say, but look at the facts, where before you would have been shut down. We're on a completely different battlefield. And whether you like him or not, Donald Trump has brought us to this battlefield. Now, my only question for conservatives is, do you think we have a winning message? Not Donald Trump. I mean us, as this movement that has been pushing through tea parties and through local governments all over this country. If you think that we have a winning message, this is not your time to sit on the sidelines. This is your time to take that message to the people you have been afraid to address this entire time I have been in this movement. The battlefield is now wide open, and I'm looking for how many people are going to show up with their ideas.
Do you think that there is a choice in this race at this point?
Wealth over poverty. Now, if you are in the category where either way, you know that you are going to be comfortable. Like I am kind of in that category. Regardless of who becomes president, like you said, I refuse to be stopped. So I am not, afraid of either one of them becoming president. With Hillary, it's going to be a lot tougher. It's going to be a lot harder because she's going to be sucking so much money out of me in the form of taxation that anything I would like to build or grow, it is going to be harder for me to do so, but it's not going to stop me from trying to do so. With Donald Trump, what you have is an opportunity to break the progressive hold on the black community. I don't care. I have stood up for the other issues, and I will continue to stand up for them. But right now, my focus is, when will we get this chance in our lifetime again to actually break the glass ceiling that Hillary talks about in the black community? And right now, the battle is happening. It is ongoing, and we have someone who isn't afraid to stop fighting it. So whether you like him or not, this is the battlefield. And for all of us black faces that have stood up for you over the years, when we've been called tokens and we've been called all of this crap, now we are saying the battle is happening. Why aren't you standing with us? Why aren't you in this battle on these ideas? Instead, most of them are out there playing the racist game. They're going in and saying, well, yes, he is. He's offended black people. No, you have offended black people for ignoring them the last 8 years.
Talk to me.
So when does your offense stop? When do you come over here and do something productive instead of sitting on a sideline asking us how it's done? Bring your ideas to the battlefield, and we can actually do it.
Exactly. We got people on Twitter now talking about our interview. And one of them is talking about the white privilege and progressives and how wrong we are. But I've challenged them to come on the show, but they won't call in. They just want to talk on Twitter. Nobody wants to come in on the program to talk about these issues. What they fail to realize is this, and I'll say this on this national program, that I am not one of these black conservatives that allows people to bully me. You have got called into the wrong show. You're listening to the wrong program. And if you want to debate issues, if you want to talk about what's happening in my community, call in. I gave y'all the number, 888-900-3393. That's all I'm saying. Debate us on the issues.
No, they can't, because it all boils down to, like I said, wealth or poverty. That it all boils down to that. And the simple thing is, they want to claim this mantle of resistance. Like, we are the resistance. We stay woke. No, you don't. You beg. You beg government for everything. You are now begging them for protection. You are begging them for safe space. You are begging them for controlled language. You are begging them for education. You are begging them for housing. You are begging them for food. At what point do you stop begging? At what point do you understand we are builders? And if we are going to move into the next generation outside of this crap you call white privilege or whatever you want to name it, I don't care what you name it. If you want to get out of it, the answer to it is ownership. The answer to it is capitalism. The answer to it is us running our communities like a republic is supposed to be run. That is the answer. So you can sit and cry over the name, and you can defend your Democrat Party. You can do all that crap all you want. But one thing you know you cannot fight against is black people know the difference between wealth over poverty. And once presented that choice, you are afraid to death about which one they are going to pick.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sonnie Johnson. Thanks for joining the program, big sis.
No problem, little brother. Talk with you soon.
Talk to you soon. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, there are more voices out here that say the same thing. Donald Trump, brother, the next step is showing up into the community. More voices is what Andrew Breitbart used to say. More voices. We got more after this break. Lauren Jones in for Buck Sexton, the Blaze Radio Network.
The Buck Sexton Show.
Discover more at theblaze.com/radio.
The Blaze Radio Network.
Dispensing the truth. This is Buck Sexton
On the Blaze Radio Network.
Welcome back to the program. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. Let me tell you guys, there is no shame. No shame. People want to talk on social media. They want to talk about how me and my big sister in the movement got it wrong. But they won't call into the show. It's unbelievable. And when you call them out on social media on their hypocrisy, they say they're at work. That somehow that they, even though they've been tweeting back and forth for minutes, almost an hour since I started this show, they're at work. They can't debate it. They can't debate us. They don't want any of this. Like I said, wrong black conservatives. I am not a victim. You will not attack me. I'm more of what Donald Trump would call a counterpuncher. If you're bad, if you believe in the principles that you support, call into the show. Let's discuss the policies that are facing my community. You won't, because you'll lose. We have the winning arguments if we would just use them. We got more after this. Lauren Jones in for Buck Sexton, the Blaze Radio Network.
The Buck Sexton Show.
only on the Blaze Radio Network. Now, spreading freedom across the nation. This is
The Buck Sexton Show.
Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton right here on the Blaze Radio Network. Y'all, I'm trying to calm down. During the break, I got me some ice water, a little fruit snacks, because I just had to get that off my chest, I had to get it out. And, of course, people still won't call in to talk about the policies. But we got a packed show for you today. We're going to talk to David French Right now, we want to go to Julie in San Antonio. Julie, thanks for calling the program.
Well, thank you for being there for Buck.
Yes, ma'am.
I just had to call in. I was so impressed with you and Sonnie both in your passion and your correct reading, especially Sonnie. Yes, it's progressives. We know that. And I have been impressed with you ever since you first showed up on the Blaze.
Oh, you're a sweetheart. I tell you, Julie, I just wish people would be honest about the situation, okay? Don't just tell part of what's happening. Tell who's behind it as well.
Exactly.
And I just feel like, we've gotten to a point where, me and my big sis, Sonnie, we're not biological brother and sister, but blood can make us any closer. That gotten to the.
Me. How do I follow her on Twitter?
She said, Sonnie, did she say that? Did she say that on Twitter?
I think she did.
Yeah, did she say that? I looked up
Sonnie Johnson, and I couldn't come up with her.
I'm going to. I don't know if you're on Twitter, but I'm going to. I just actually retweeted a tweet from her. I want you guys to go and follow her because I'm telling you, you think this is something. Follow her daily on Twitter, and you get to see some of this raw, unfiltered knowledge that she talks about, issues that's facing the community. She is at D. Did she say that? Did she say that? Thank you so much for calling in, Julie. Yeah, Sonnie Johnson. That's my big sis. Now we got David. We're going to get into David French. We're going to get into some of Donald Trump's immigration speech. David French, thanks for joining the program.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
David, I know that many of us were critical of Donald Trump doing this immigration speech, but you had a different perspective on how you presented the argument. What was the most concerning thing for you?
The most concerning thing for me was the way he did it.
Okay.
I think that the bottom line is, I think if you look at the core of his immigration policy, what's he really saying? What he's really saying is secure the border and enforce the law.
That's the good part.
Also saying that's the good part. And what he's saying is also that rather than bring in small numbers of refugees from the Middle East that we know ISIS is trying to infiltrate, it's far more sound to do what we did, say, in the early 1990s when the Kurds were threatened with genocide from Saddam Hussein, establish safe zones overseas. And that's good. All of those things, I think that's very sensible. That's a sound immigration policy. But what he does is rather than use an opportunity to persuade America to a point of view that, frankly, a lot of Americans disagree with on immigration,
right,
he uses it to throw sort of red meat to his base. Well, he's already got his base. So he, instead of just saying, hey, let's secure the border, he talks about building the most magnificent wall and it's going to be all free because Mexico is going to pay for it, rather than just talking about safe zones in Iraq, which is in Syria, which is a sound policy, but a tough policy. He makes.
So, do you think the wall is a stretch? Those of you that are just joining, I got David French with me, writer at National Review, attorney, and author. David, do you think he goes too far when he starts to talk about the wall?
I think when he starts to talk about I think a border security plan that makes any sense at all has to include increased fencing on the border. I mean, there's just no question about that. Fencing can be quite effective. But the idea that a gigantic Maginot Line that's going to be, or Great Wall of China, is going to be something that a Congress will appropriate and pay for, or even necessary and cost effective at securing the border, that's where he's tripping up an awful lot of people. And so, my view is, say you secure the border and you do what is necessary to secure the border, and here's why we do that. Here's why that's important. But he bogs down so much into saying, I'm going to build the most amazing wall you've ever seen, and Mexico's going to pay for it. Well, the Mexico pay for it element of it is a fantasy. And then what he does is he sets himself up with this target that is, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And we all know good and well the only way that thing happens is if the Democrats, is if the Republicans, he's such a dominant political force that his ideology gets a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. And that's just not in the cards.
David, I get what you're saying. Is he doing things that many politicians do when they run for office? They make all these promises, and they actually can't achieve them.
Well, yes and no. Okay, so yes, politicians overpromise. I mean, if there's one thing that we have seen since the rise of Obama, it's like the great overpromising. I mean, remember when Obama was going to promise that this is the moment when the rise of the oceans would stop?
Oh, yeah.
We're in the middle of sort of the era of the great overpromise. But here's where Trump is, I think, doing things the wrong. Overpromising is normal, but here's what's not normal. Politicians who are trying to win a majority try to speak in terms that will persuade people who are on the fence. They don't speak in ways that are just firing up the minority of people who already support him. Trump's big problem right now is he's got a minority locked down, but you need a majority to win the presidential campaign. And the problem that I have is I largely agree with the enforce the border or protect the border and enforce the law approach to immigration. I agree with safe zones.
Is that enough for you to support him, David?
Oh, no, not even close.
I thought I may try. I may try to I'm not the biggest fan of Donald Trump as well. I don't know who I'm going to vote for at this point. But are you still in the Never Trump camp? And is there anything that Donald Trump can do to remove you out of that camp?
Oh, I mean, a fundamental personal transformation where he provides some evidence that he's actually temperamentally, ideologically, emotionally, and intellectually fit for the presidency. Then I would be happy to vote for him. But the Donald Trump that exists is not temperamentally, ideologically, emotionally, or intellectually fit for the presidency of the United States. So those are a few strikes against him. Now, that's not that I think that Hillary Clinton's any better. I think Hillary Clinton is a disaster. But
so how do you feel about the argument that many people make that if you're not for Donald Trump, then you're for Hillary Clinton?
That's just false. I mean, I'm not for either one of them. What I am for is rebuilding the GOP after the era of Trump, and what I am for is providing a conservative counterpoint to either a President Trump or a President Clinton. Either one of those are going to need to have a conservative check and balance against their excesses. And so that's what I'm for. I am against Hillary. I am against Trump. I am for a conservative check against both of those people. And that's why I urge people to double down their support on quality conservative candidates in the Senate and the House. That's going to be our political hope in the next 4 years. And then we have to do a better job in the GOP primary.
Do you feel like we're going to lose?
Do
you feel like we're going to lose some seats in this election?
It would be a shock if we did not lose seats. Now, let me qualify that. I mean, I think Trump is a disaster as a candidate. I've never seen a worse candidate in my lifetime, except that Hillary Clinton may be a worse candidate than Donald Trump.
Tell us how you really feel.
She's proving to be one of the least likable people in American politics. And the only reason she's ahead is she might be running against the only politician in America that's less likable than she is. So, I continue to be astounded at her own incompetence as a campaigner, her own incompetence as a politician. I mean, this is a person who lies so transparently, so shamelessly, that you almost begin to wonder if there's just some sort of mental break happening, that she's so in her own bubble of sycophants that she never has anyone tell her, you just come across as a liar. And so, but again, every time I say that, I have to say, unfortunately, the GOP nominee is just as brazen a liar as Hillary Clinton. So here we are.
So, David, I'm getting ready to throw you another curveball. Is it still too late for you to get in the race?
Way too late.
Way too late.
Yes. It's funny. It wasn't too late. It was getting very close to being too late when I looked at it weeks and weeks and weeks ago. But the simple fact of the matter is, for someone to come in in an independent position, they have to have funding and or independent constituency that lets America know who they are on a mass scale. I mean, politics is a subculture, but the president is elected by 125 million people who are voting. And it takes a lot of either fame or notoriety or money to get your name out to the American people. And unfortunately, that is a heavy lift for an independent. It is just very difficult.
Do you see yourself getting behind one of the independent candidates like McMullen?
Well, unfortunately, McMullen did not get on the ballot in Tennessee. I said if he got on the ballot in Tennessee, I'd vote for him, but unfortunately he did not. So I am probably going to write in a candidate, I'm certainly going to write in a candidate. I just got to figure out who I'm going to write in. But what I've been saying from the beginning is this is an election where it looks like the best opportunity is to preserve to help our country through the political process is by doubling down on the down ballot races. That's where you put your money. That's where you put your energy. That's where you put your effort, is maintaining the conservative ideas that keep America great, and doing it through checking either a President Trump or a President Clinton.
David French, always my brother. Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. David French, y'all. He would have been a good candidate. I like Dave. I love what he has to say. Guys, I told you at the beginning of the program that I'm going to have a big announcement for you. Stay here with us. I promise you. I promise you. I'm going to get to the future. Where am I going to be? What I'm going to be doing with the Blaze. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. Keep it here.
Buck Sexton. Dispensing the truth.
On the Blaze Radio Network. Buck Sexton Show on the Blaze Radio Network.
Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. Still want to get to your calls. It's been an honor to work here at the Blaze. And every single day I get up and I come to a place that I love to work at on the TV side. And it's been an experience. I don't know. Many of you may know that I had this interview with the parents of the Dallas shooter, and it really catapulted my career. I consider it as a reward for all the other things I had been doing before. And finally, it took my career other places. Many of you may have seen me now doing a lot of Fox and CNN, and it has been a journey and an honor and a privilege to grow with you guys. Glenn has been a fabulous mentor, and he never tries to put me in a box. He never tries to change my opinion. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but he's been supportive of me and helping me grow. And I never forget when I got the exclusive and other media companies started reaching out to my agent to get me over there. Glenn did not respond with, "No, you have to stay here." He responded to me by saying, "Lawrence, if you ever get to a point in time where it's time for you to leave, let me help you. I'll always be your mentor. I'll always be your friend. Let me help you get to the next destination." And many of you may have read my Facebook post. I'm staying here, and I have been blessed with the opportunity to on Saturdays for the Blaze, I'll be premiering next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday. I'll be having a show on Saturdays at 12 p.m. And it's an honor. It's an honor to be here with people that love freedom. And I promise you this, you won't always agree with me. There are going to be times that you disagree, and we'll have spirited debates, but I'll be there for you. I'll be there to get the facts and do the investigative reporting and talk about things that the mainstream media is going to ignore. That's just the fact of the matter. They will ignore certain stories. I'll do original reporting. I'll be on the ground and then come back and report you. Now, those of you that watch the TV side, I'm not going anywhere as far as TV. There's a larger role that's getting ready to be announced soon on that side about me doing investigative journalism work and doing some stuff with Glenn. But today, we'll be doing radio on the weekends, on Saturdays, giving you original content. This won't be just old talking heads and all the other nonsense. We're going to talk about issues that are facing this country. I'll bring people on the program that I disagree with, and we'll have spirited debates. I think right now in this country, we have become so divided. And we have an opportunity to come together. But there are people within the media that have a political incentive to keep us warring at one another. We won't do that. We will find solutions to the problems. We will identify the problems, but we are still going to find the solutions. And we're going to call people out. I have been blessed. And honored. This little boy that came from a teenage pregnancy, my mom and then my dad married her. They've been married for 23 years. Now has the opportunity to continue his career doing what he loves to do. You can't make that stuff up. This only happens in this great land. And that's why I have become so passionate as it relates to what's happening in our country and people that want to cast doubt on us. We are great. We are not victims. And although we have issues, we come together as a family, as a country, and many people died so that we can live out our dreams. And I can guarantee you, starting next Saturday, we're going to talk about all the issues. We're going to have some fun. So let's go. We'll keep it in.
The Buck Sexton Show on the Blaze Radio Network.
You're listening to the Buck Sexton Show, only on the Blaze Radio Network.
Welcome to the program, the Buck Sexton Show. Again, I can't thank Buck enough for allowing me to sub for him. Can't thank this network enough for giving me the opportunity to talk with you guys. That's all we do. We talk. That's what we'll be doing on the weekends. Talking. Having conversations, talking about things that the mainstream media won't cover. They won't cover it. I wanted to get in this in the first hour, but I was so annoyed with what the press is doing and trying to pit us against one another and, not really caring about my community, but they want to pretend like they are. That I forgot all about Hillary Clinton in the email. And many of you may remember that there were emails released as it relates to the Clinton Foundation and them trying to associate donors and link up donors with Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. And at this point, we don't have evidence to suggest that how much access they gained, but we do have emails going back and forth from the secretary's administration and admins and body men and the Clinton Foundation. Some of them held positions in the Clinton Foundation and the Secretary of State's office. And we know we got emails with the subject line favors. All of this stuff is illegal, okay? And, you see liberals get on air and they say, where is the evidence? Well, we got that piece of evidence, but what is the evidence of what they said in the meeting? We don't get that stuff. We can't even get all of the emails at this point. And it's almost as if they're intentionally being absurd at this point. We only get pieces of the information because they only release some of it. You got Hillary Clinton that has destroyed a server, and all of a sudden you want to tell us that we don't have all the facts? We're trying to get all the facts. We've been asking and requesting and begging for them to turn over highly sensitive information over to us. At this point, the hackers already may know. Then we're expecting the charity watchdog group to release more information of how the Clintons did the pay to play. And then we know that the Bill Clinton aides used tax dollars to subsidize the foundation. Is there anyone that has a brain at this point that believes there's some shady business going on in the Clinton Foundation? Come on. Liberals, I won't judge you today. Be honest. We all know that there's some shady business going on between the Clinton Foundation. And I'm sorry, it has to be shut down. It's not enough for Chelsea to just run it. And now they're making this pledge that if Hillary is elected, that they'll just end ties. I'm sorry. If Chelsea is running it, then that's a problem. That's a problem. And the fact that they won't admit it to us, that they did this. You already got Donna Brazile, who is the chairwoman of the DNC, saying, hey, all politicians do it. This has been going on for years. That doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. Did Sean Smith parents get access to the Secretary of State when we left them for dead in Benghazi? That's not cool. In what world is that cool? Like, as much as I don't like Donald Trump, there's been so many shady acts against the American people that Hillary Clinton has her fingerprints all over, that it almost just makes me just want to vote for him. Because she's that bad. She's that bad. She lies to the American people every single day. Yet, night after night, I watch the news. Sometimes I have to debate them. And they go back and forth defending her saying, oh, no, there's no way that she did the pay to play. Now they want us to allow someone who, from today's show, one of the anchors, to moderate the debate of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton that gave to the foundation. You got to give me a break. You got to be kidding me. All of a sudden, we want to trust the media? And that's been my whole argument through this whole thing. Is that the media, and I understand Donald Trump is bad, and he has a past, but the media has been so focused on covering how bad Donald Trump is that they've completely abandoned how bad Hillary Clinton is. Where are the investigative reports on the Clintons? Where is the research team on the Clintons? Where is the accountability for facing the American people with press conferences? Where is the live interviews where Hillary Clinton is? See, no one wants to talk about that. Again, I'm not defending Donald Trump. But as I said on Fox the other night, they both suck. So cover both of them fairly. And Donald Trump has given the media the most access. And they have guns blazing at him. Why can't we criticize Hillary? Everybody and their mama, as my grandmother would say, knows she's a bad candidate. Everybody and their mother knows she's corrupt. Her and Bill. And we're just supposed to sweep it under the rug? That's insane. That's insane. The hypocrisy, the angel moms that Donald Trump had on stage, the mothers of victims of illegal immigrants killings. We want to talk about that. Donald Trump was bad for doing that. But when Hillary Clinton had the mothers of the movement on stage, then it was all fine. This is why people don't trust the media. Hillary Clinton decides that finally she will start allowing journalists on her plane. Donald Trump has had journalists on his plane. She's dodging. She's dodging. And it's unreal and it's unfair for the media to continue beat Donald Trump over the head, and they say nothing to the Clintons. And then when you do see her on TV, when you do see the people giving interviews, her surrogates, they try to defend things that can't be defended, cannot be defended. And I don't see the anchors calling them out on it. They dodge. They dodge. And we're supposed to just talk about Donald Trump all day? Give me a break. Who's going to apologize to the people? And there's been reports that people's lives have already been put at risk based on those emails. Well, Hillary Clinton did not, the FBI director did not charge her. He should have. Why? I don't know. Because he started the press conference out with all of the evidence that would suggest an indictment. But we're supposed to believe that There was no politics involved with that? Give me a break. There was politics. And I'm just calling it for how I see it. I'm just calling it the way I see it. There was politics associated with this. I don't believe James Comey, who I thought was an honorable man, when he walked out and said, hey, I haven't told the attorney general, I haven't told the president. Meanwhile, the president is on a plane with Hillary Clinton. You mean to tell me that the president would be on a plane getting ready to do a speech side by side with Hillary Clinton at a campaign rally without knowing if there was going to be an indictment or not an indictment? That's BS. And everybody in the mom knows it. Everybody knows it. Which brings me to what they feel about the voters. It's obvious. It's obvious that they take us as fools. They take us as fools because no one believes it. Or do they think that she's invincible? The media doesn't cover it. Not one. None of them cover it. If you go too close to the issues, then they say you're treating her that way because she's a woman. And it turns into the sexist things. Meanwhile, we're getting email after email of talking points of them coordinating the DNC with the Hillary Clinton campaign. And they want us to trust her. Hillary Clinton goes out and says, I don't understand why I'm not trusted. I don't understand it. Well, let me tell you why. You lie. You lie every chance you get, and you lie with a straight face. That's the part that gets me. You lie with no conviction. None whatsoever. I just wish the media would pretend to be fair. Who is going to call out the donors that were sexual predators, okay, that committed murder in other countries? She had donors in the Clinton Foundation of people that she says she's against. Oh, I'm against the oppression in some of the Middle East countries. Oh, but I'll take their money. When they ask her about her speeches, I don't know. I don't know why my speeches were so high. That's what they offered. That's why the American people don't trust her. But isn't it interesting that the media refuses to raise that question? Why don't we trust her? I'll tell you why. Because she lies. We got more right here on the Buck Sexton Show. Lawrence Jones in the Blaze Radio Network.
Buck Sexton.
The Blaze Radio Network.
The Buck Sexton Show.
Welcome back to the program. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Remember, next Saturday, tune in to the first episode, the premiere of the Lawrence Jones Show at 12 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a great show. We're going to talk about things that, of course, like I said, the mainstream media won't cover. One of the things that I want to do when I do this show is to make sure stories that wouldn't normally be told are told. And you'll continue to hear me hammer that because I believe that's where we're losing this battle. There are stories happening in communities that we're not highlighting. We got to get the word out. There are people that are hurting that if we could just show them that we care, and we show them that we care by helping them and shining a light on their stories. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to have fun. I want to get your calls, but I want to make sure that you leave with more information that you can go and share with others. Knowledge is power, folks. I believe that without a doubt. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for your support. We got one more hour on the Buck Sexton Show. Keep it here.
You're listening to Buck Sexton on the Blaze Radio Network. Now, spreading freedom across the nation. This is
The Buck Sexton Show.
Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show. I'm Lawrence Jones. Welcome to Hour 3. Thank you so much for tuning in. We still want to get to your calls. 888-900-3393. 888-900-3393. I can't thank you enough for tuning in to the show on a Friday. I know there are other people that you can be listening to, but you're listening to The Blaze. You're getting the truth. And I want to get you guys called. Let's go to Grayson.
Well, Lawrence, it's a pleasure and an honor, sir. I just want to thank you, first of all, for, I got to tell you, you really stand out there on the Blaze, and you really have helped me learn to understand a great many things, not just about the black community, and not just about the black community, but different perspectives as a whole. And thank you for that and standing up, because I know that you're in a very tough position. But I really appreciate what you're talking about today, and I wanted to point out that, you know, the media is really emboldened after having a president such as Barack Obama in office, and having the media cheerleaders that have been, blowing that horn, and they've been getting away with so much stuff, and they've been able to do it. And it's like these emperors that don't have the clothes on anymore, and we see it, and we're calling it out, but it's like people aren't responding. I had a conversation with a gentleman who had actually posted a thing against Hillary on a Facebook posting, and said that, she had been fired for unethical behavior. And I responded, I said, do you realize that that was from the Nixon Whitewater administration? And he didn't even realize that. And I said, yeah, that'd be like Al Capone firing a mafia hitman for being too violent.
Right.
People just aren't really understanding the implications of what, like you said, Jim Comey, hey, Hillary's quacking like a duck, walking like a duck, flapping her wings, flying around with ducks, but she's not a duck, and we're not going to treat her like a duck.
Right.
You could not peel me off the ceiling. I could not, for the life of me, draw any other conclusion from the words that came out of his mouth. And of course, the whole tarmac incident out here at Sky Harbor.
And no accountability for that. No accountability.
No, not at all. None. Zero. And the thing is, when I post some of these things, and there's little to no reaction or response, just generally, it bothers me, because it just shows that most people aren't even paying attention, but yet they will crush me, because I don't want to vote for Trump, but I'm certainly not gonna. You'll have to pry that voting pin from my cold dead hand to vote for Hillary. But I'm not going to go down that path either.
It's a tough election. It's a tough position to be in as a patriot, as someone who loves your country. I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah, I don't, because it's just, it's painful.
I'm in that boat, though. I'm in that boat with you, and I think a majority of people are like us. Okay, and
but when you have,
I don't envy us.
Yeah, but when you have the Sean Hannitys of the world, that is, I'm one of those that I'll disagree with my boss Glenn Beck sometimes. But when you have him attacking people, saying that Glenn and people like me and other people will be responsible if Hillary Clinton is elected, it's like, we didn't choose this guy to run. Okay?
Yeah.
So how are you going to put that logic? It's the stuff that the liberals do. And what I'm afraid of is in this election, you have conservatives that are going to burn themselves. Thank you for your call. I tell you, it is unbelievable that we are doing the same things that the left does. If you vote for this person, you don't vote for this person, then you cause this person to win. If you support this, then you'll vote for this person, even though they don't hit the other check marks. If you support this person, then you're responsible for the Supreme Court. We are destroying one another for no reason. For no reason. I'm watching this play out of this back and forth. It's your fault. It's your fault. No. It's no one's fault, okay? Everybody just calm down. What has happened is that these politicians for years have been making promises to the American people that they knew that they had no intention of applying. Every single year, they come, they go to the fancy parties, those that show up, and they say they're going to do this. They're going to cut spending. They're going to stop Obamacare. They're going to secure the border. They're going to have your back. We got your best interests. We're tired of what's happened. We're going to fix the education, get rid of Common Core. We're going to stop crony capitalism. We're going to fix infrastructure. They say it every single year, and they don't do it. So what happened this election? The American people got so fed up after the Tea Party move, and they forgot that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And they put their faith into someone that said all the right things because they had been listening. What did he say? I listened to all the programs. Donald Trump heard the people. He heard their anger. And he took advantage of it. He went and he said what they wanted to hear, and they got behind him. Now, Donald Trump does a great job in identifying the problem that we face. In many areas, he doesn't identify the solution, which gives many of us pause. I don't think that's unfair. I don't think it's unfair for us to. I have no loyalty to the Republican Party. I have no loyalty to the Democratic Party. I have no loyalty to any party. My loyalty is to God, my family, my country, and to my principles. But you want me to choose against all of that based on loyalty to you. I can't do that. I have not made up my decision, but it has to be a decision that I can be able to sleep at night. And those that are in the blogosphere, in the conservative movement, we got to talk to one another. Because right now, it's a lot of friendly fire going on. And all of us are going to get hurt. There are people that are destroying their credibility. There are people that are destroying friendships over politics. Let's face it. A lot of these politicians aren't going to do what they said they were going to do. Stop putting all your faith into the politicians. It is proven year after year, especially presidential candidates, that they let us down. It's a fact. We know it to be true. Yet, every single year, every single election, I see people put their faith back into the politicians and in friendships over politics. Let me give you just a tad bit of advice. As someone, as I said at the beginning, grew up in poverty and had to, and a lot of times, fend for themselves and family. How about we stop putting so much faith into these men and women in politics and put more faith in our community? I know it sounds simple, right? Let's start putting more faith in God and to our actions and to what we do to improve our communities. Because if you're looking for a man or gal to save the day, it's not going to happen, folks. These people today in politics, I haven't met one of them that hasn't sold their soul to some group. And I know there's some good guys out there trying to serve. There's some good guys, and I take nothing from them. I just have a rule of thumb. I don't trust politicians. I don't. They let you down. Think of all the people that believed in hope and change. Think about it. That we're going to get hope. There's going to be change. You set yourself to be let down. I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm just saying, is it worth ending long friendships over politics? I think not. I say, all of us join forces and get it right this time. No matter who's elected, we make a vow to one another that we will fight for our communities, that we will fight to make sure that the policies that are affecting our community are the good ones, that fix our infrastructure, that create an environment for small businesses. And those people that plan to harm our communities, we get rid of them legally before people take them out of context. But destroying friendships and picking fights, that's unreal. Let's come together and improve our community. Lawrence Jones with the Blaze Radio Network. Keep it here.
This is the Buck Sexton Show.
The Blaze Radio Network.
This is the Buck Sexton Show.
Welcome back to the program. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. I can't thank you enough for tuning in. Guys, transparency moment. All right. So I have one of these things, right? If you're honest with me, then I give you some flexibility. But those that lie, okay, I have absolutely no grace for you. I'm working on it, but I haven't arrived yet with that grace level. Lawrence, what are you talking about? Y'all remember when I was subbing, I think for Buck the last time, we were talking about the Iran deal. We were talking about how we were transferring hostages for this, for the deal and the money and the sanctions relief. And the left was so adamant that we were so wrong and we were delusional and we didn't have all the facts. Or did we? Because I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to understand what they were doing. What if I was to tell you that we've just found that the U.S. agreed to secret exemptions for Iran after the nuclear deal? You mean to tell me we gave them billions of dollars to prevent a nuclear weapon, okay? And the same thing that we were trying to avoid, we provided them with exemptions to get a nuclear weapon? You got to be kidding me. This is the type of stuff that gets my blood boiling. Because when we reported on this initially, when we took the press to town on this issue, they made it seem like we were delusional. All right? When we said that when they used transfers of prisoners for the money, they said that we were delusional, except when we found a plane with money and hostages in it, okay? We were dumb. We were delusional. We had no clue on how this works. They know it all, and we're clueless. What is our country doing? We are literally helping the enemy. Now, do I think that we're intentionally trying to do that? No. I think we're so naive. We're so naive. Why can't we just face it? There are some countries that just hate us, okay? All right? What we stand for, they're against. What we're against, they stand for. Why can't we just be okay with that? Why does everything have to be so diplomatic? I don't want Russia to be our friends. I'm sorry. I don't want Iran to be our friends. But the part that ticks me off the most is that we have real allies like Israel that we throw under the bus. That's insane. How do we expect legitimate allies to stand with us when we don't have their backs? Everybody knows what Iran plans on doing. We know what the supreme leader wants to do. Yet, we want to pretend like they're our friends. I feel like we are the kids on the playground that keeps getting rocks thrown at us. And the kid is throwing rocks at you because they don't want to play with you. And you keep going back and, hey, I want to play. Let's be friends. And the kid keeps throwing rocks at us. Are we this dumb? I think so. I think we are. I think we're this dumb because there is no reason why we should have made that deal. And the fact, the audacity of all of them, from Obama to Hillary to Kerry and all the rest of them, all their specialists, scientists, all of these scumbags all said that we were crazy. All of them. Yet, all the evidence is pointing to exactly what we said. You don't have all the facts, Lawrence. I have enough to make a conclusion that they lied to us. And that, my friend, is treason. What they're doing to the American people, lying to us, it ain't cool, bro. We got more on the Buck Sexton Show. Lawrence Jones in for Buck. Keep it here.
The Buck Sexton Show on the Blaze Radio Network.
You're listening to the Buck Sexton Show.
Welcome back to the program. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton. Remember, next Saturday, the Lawrence Jones Show premieres on the Blaze Radio Network, only on the Blaze, 12 Eastern. We're going to have a good time. Earlier today, I was talking about Donald Trump in the black community, getting the black vote, because I think it's important as it relates to this election. And we're going to cover it fairly. Joining me now is Deroy Murdock. He's a National Review contributing editor. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hi, Lawrence. How are you? Good to talk to you. It's Deroy, by the way.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Deroy Murdock.
Deroy, I'm sorry about that, brother.
That's quite
Deroy,
right.
Tell me this. All right. I'm looking at your piece,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't get to hear my monologue, but I talked about this similarly. Donald Trump, is it possible to win the black vote, though, without him showing up to the community? Because he's identified the problem. He said things that a lot of Republicans haven't said before. And I think he identified the problem. But what is it going to take for him to show up?
Well, first question you asked, Lawrence, is can he win the black vote? Now, if by that you mean winning 100%, that's not going to happen. If you mean winning 51%, I don't think that's going to happen either. I do think that he can do as well as George W. Bush did, which was about 10 to 15%, I believe, when he was reelected. 15% in Ohio, I think about 8 to 10 nationwide. And if he gets 15% of the black vote, it comes neck and neck, all other things being equal. If he gets 20% of the black vote, he wins the election. Simple as that. And the way to do that is for him to show up. If I were Donald Trump, I would spend lots of time going to black churches, black business associations, black civic groups in Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, in the swing states. So when he goes to these swing states, fine to go downtown and talk to the regular, Chamber of Commerce or whatever, but he ought to be visiting black institutions, like I said to you, historically black colleges. I think that people will be stunned to see him do that because Republicans basically think, well, we're not going to win, so why bother? And the Democrats, scare black folks about races in the Klan once every 4 years. They get 95% of the black vote, and then they turn around and walk away and don't do a thing for us. In fact, they cause damage and create difficulty. You look at the generally speaking, left of center Democratic attacks on school choice, on vouchers, this sort of thing, and that's just one example. So if I were Donald Trump, I would take this message directly to the black community. I wouldn't do one meeting. I would do multiple meetings, and I'd ask a very simple question each time he does it. What have the Democrats done for you lately? You keep voting for these people. You line up 95% for these folks, 97% maybe. And what do you have in return? I mean, you look at the parts of town in any inner city you go to where people are poor that tend to be the black community, not the white community. Where's the crime? It tends to be in the black community, not the white community. You look at the school systems in the inner city, generally not holding up. The kids are not getting the educations they deserve. And they're generally run by black mayors, Democratic mayors, Democratic city councils, Democratic school boards, etc. So what is the benefit? What is the payoff? What is the gain for black people from coast to coast for providing 90 to 95, 97% loyalty to the Democrat Party? I'd say a lot of investment of black votes in the Democratic Party with very little to show for it. And Trump should make that point nonstop between now and the election.
What do you think about the coverage that the media has provided on this issue with Donald Trump is trying to reach out? It seems like they're missing his message and they're just going straight on attack mode, criticizing everything he does.
Well, look, if he didn't talk to black people, they'd say, why is he only talking to literally white audiences? I remember hearing that throughout the primary. Oh, his audiences are all white. They're all white people. Now he's talking about black folks. Oh, you're talking about black people, but not in front of black people. Tomorrow he's going to be in Detroit at a black church, and they're complaining about that. So no matter what he does, he could spend all day through the rest of the campaign doing nothing but talking to black audiences to the complete exclusion of everyone else. They still wouldn't be happy. They want to see him lose, and they're going to attack him no matter what. So if I were Donald Trump, I would stop reading the New York Times. I'd stop responding to Mika Brzezinski. I would close my Twitter account. He should understand and stipulate that the left-wing media don't like him, and they love Hillary Clinton, and they'll do everything they can to get her elected. Don't worry about that. Just take your message out there, state your message, and do the best to get it through clearly. Use the teleprompter, use prepared speeches, be calm, be presidential, and I think he can win this thing. And he doesn't have to worry about people on the left yelling at him. They're going to yell no matter what he does.
So let's talk about that. Donald Trump has provided the media with the most access by far, more than any candidate in any other race, in the primary and the general. Why would Donald Trump continue to give them access when he now realizes that they're slanting it against him?
I don't know, masochism perhaps. And particularly he's giving interviews to the New York Times. I don't know why he's doing that. The New York Times is there to pummel and destroy and obliterate Republicans and conservatives. I always tell my friends on the right, the best thing to do to the New York Times is ignore them. Pay them no attention. Pretend they're not there because they don't like you. They hate your guts. They hate everybody on the right. Pay them no mind whatsoever. They're not our friends. And if you talk to them, all you do is create trouble. Just assume that they're the enemy. And that's what Trump ought to do. He shouldn't spend any time worrying about those guys. And he also needs to get off of Twitter. There's no reason he ought to be responding to these journalists who say things about him and getting in these little cat fights with various people. It's unseemly. It's a huge
But should he be
distraction.
doing as many interviews as he's doing?
I think it's fine to do interviews. I don't think it needs to be on all the time. I think there's a certain benefit to being maybe slightly mysterious, if you will. I think he needs to do a lot more local media. So when he gets to Pennsylvania or he gets to Iowa, whatever, he ought to go to the local stations. They'll be very flattered to have a nominee in their local TV stations, local radio stations. And generally speaking, the response is no, or the questions rather, are not as hostile as they are from the National Press Corps for the most part. And I think you'll get a much better bang for the buck if he goes to these places, does events, and also deals with the local media. And of course, the national media can pick up whatever he says on a station in Davenport, Iowa, or a station in rural Pennsylvania, whatever it might be.
So let's talk about our community, the black community. You get 3 issues. What 3 issues would you say is affecting our community the most?
Well, I think the first thing I talk about is crime. I mean, we have a big problem with crime, no question. I mean, you've got Black Lives Matters making a lot of noise about this sort of thing, and we certainly have a problem with some cops who are out of control and need to be disciplined or punished for their abuses, but most cops are there trying to keep the peace, trying to prevent crime from getting worse. Most cops don't just show up in black neighborhoods. They show up because somebody's called 911 and said there's somebody breaking in or shooting guns or whatever it may be. So I would address that issue. Secondly, education by far. You go to most inner cities in America, and the school systems are engaged in what I describe as a system of institutionalized child abuse. Here in New York City, our mayor, Bill de Blasio, big Democrat, he was the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton's U.S. Senate campaign, as a matter of fact. And he's just on a war against charter schools. I mean, if you're running a charter school, he's making your life as difficult as possible. He doesn't want to open any new ones. He doesn't want to give them space in empty school buildings. We have empty school buildings here in New York City. They're just gathering dust, nothing going on. And folks say, look, can we open a charter school here? And he says, no, I don't want you here. He hates charter schools because he loves the teachers' unions. And the teachers' unions are completely embedded with the Democratic Party and vice versa. And I would attack that directly for our Trump. And the third thing is economic growth and opportunity. I would talk about entrepreneurship and the various ways that government gets in the way of people who want to start their own businesses, run their own entrepreneurial enterprises and so forth. Endless licensing, getting the government's permission for anything you want to do, from African hair braiding to opening a small shop, driving a cab if that's what you want to do. And Trump ought to talk about getting those obstacles out of the way so that people can start their own companies, have their companies thrive, and do the kinds of things that will provide increased employment and economic opportunity in the black community. So I'd focus on crime, education, and economic growth.
Do you think it's too late for Mr. Trump?
I don't think it's too late at all. He's got, I think it's 68 days or so, something like that, until the election. I hope I've got that number right. Traditionally, the fall campaign begins on Labor Day. So in most races, things are just starting now. Hillary Clinton is going to continue to get hammered by more revelations about the Clinton Foundation and these emails. There are all kinds of documents still coming out of the State Department and the FBI and the Department of Justice, et cetera. And that constant drip, drip, drip will keep her weak. And if I were Trump, I'd stay on message. I'd use my teleprompter. I would get off of Twitter, and I'd spend a lot of time visiting the black community. And again, not expecting to get 51 or 60 or 45% of the vote, but if you get 15 or 20% of the black vote, that makes it almost like, again, all other things being equal, highly likely he will prevail. And also you get people who are nervous white folks who think, oh my God, I've heard he's a racist. If you see him visiting black neighborhoods and shaking black hands, that fear goes away. And Hispanics will think, well, if he's nice to black people, maybe he's not the monster I thought he was. You start seeing an increase in Hispanic support. Some of the never Trump people, the conservatives who just cannot get past the fact that their candidates lost in the primary, if they see a Republican finally, at long last, going into the black neighborhoods and making that case, some of them will say, okay, fine, he's doing what I want to see, and the Never Trump movement calms down, and some of these people get back on board. So it's not just a matter of gaining black votes, but gaining votes of other people who see him communicating in the black neighborhood, and that increases his appeal outside the black community as well. So I think it's a very smart thing for him to do.
Would you consider yourself a Never Trumper?
No, not at all. I supported, in this order, Scott Walker, Carly Fiorina, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz. Those four candidates did not win. Donald Trump won the Republican primary, and he won the nomination at the convention fair and square. He won those votes. He's the nominee of my party, and he's the only thing standing between us and Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton gets in, she's going to be Obama with a work ethic. She's going to be far left-wing. She's going to appoint people, one or more people to the Supreme Court who will be there for life. She's going to be appointing, if she got in, appoint thousands of people to federal bureaucracy. And I think if she got in, she would unleash the federal bureaucracy against anybody to the right of Susan Collins, and it will be 1,000 lowest learners and 1,000 agencies coming after us for on any and every possible violation of every comma or semicolon in the federal U.S. code, and we don't need that. So the last thing this country needs is Hillary Clinton, which will be another 4 to 8 years of Obama, only much more energetic and much more vindictive. Donald Trump is the only thing standing between us and that, and that's why I will be voting for Donald Trump in November.
Mr. Murdock, you talk about Donald Trump staying off of Twitter. Why are you so adamant about? Go ahead.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm adamant about what?
You talk about Mr. Trump staying off of Twitter. Why are you so adamant? Many people say he's reaching a group of people through social media. You think it's damaging for him?
I think it's damaging in the sense that he needs to focus on a very specific message, basically three things. Obama's a mess. Hillary Clinton will make it worse, and here's how I'm going to make it better. He needs to focus on those things in terms of the economy, in terms of having an ethical government, in terms of accountability, in terms of peace through strength, defeating terrorism, and getting the immigration situation under control. When he gets on Twitter, he gets in little fights, cat fights with various journalists, blurts things out. A lot of things, he has his instant response, doesn't think about it. We end up focusing on the little Twitter battle, and we don't focus on the big message. So I think that Tucker Carlson put it very well on Fox News Channel this afternoon. He said Twitter tends to diminish all those people who participate in it. And I think Donald Trump gets on Twitter, as do a lot of other politicians, and they end up sounding like little 13-year-old girls just gossiping about each other, or, oh, look at her, I don't like her hair, ooh, I hate her shoes. I mean, it really falls down to that kind of a juvenile level. I'm not a fan of Twitter, and I think Trump hurts himself almost every time he gets on Twitter. If his supporters want to send documents around, that's terrific, but I think he just really diminishes himself and makes himself look anything but presidential when he engages in these kind of petty feuds with people via Twitter, as he's doing with various people on MSNBC now, and as he's done with various journalists and other people over the last few months.
Mr. Murdock, thanks for being on the program.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Take care. He's right. He's right, though, about it's not too late. It's really not. Me and my big sis, Sonnie Johnson, talked about it. You know, Donald Trump has to get out of his own way. At this point, it's put up or shut up. Put up or shut up. All right, guys, we got one more segment. Keep it here. Lawrence Jones in for Buck Sexton on the Blaze Radio Network.
Buck Sexton, the Blaze Radio Network. Buck Sexton, the Blaze Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Buck Sexton Show. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to talk to you about what's happening in America. You know, I can't leave without telling you guys this. There's this new article out on Reuters talking about avoiding microaggressions and only to speak when necessary. And this stuff is being talked about on college campuses. Basically, if you offend people, then don't talk. Aren't they supposed to teach these kids the First Amendment? I mean, honestly, what's happening to our schools? You know, I'm not married yet, but I plan on. I'm looking for a wife. I will not put my kids in school, public school. I cannot. Because if they're teaching them this BS, I'm not going to be able to handle it. So it's best either I homeschool or find a good Christian private school that subscribes to my values. Because I'm telling you, if you're putting your kids in public schools today, oh my God, you should be concerned. Remember, next Saturday will be the premiere of the Lawrence Jones Show at 12 p.m. Eastern. Guys, I can't thank you enough. It has been an honor to sub for Buck and to be on this network.